Здравствуйте, доброе утро, добрый день, добро пожаловать на урок русского языка. Итак, давайте начнем работать. Today, let us begin our class by talking about a few concepts of the Russian grammar that are very, very important for us. Let's begin with the verb conjugation. You remember that in the present tense, Russian verbs conjugate. Let's take the verb читать. That was probably the first verb that we learned with you. Читать. Я читаю, ты читаешь, он читает, мы читаем, вы читаете, они читают. Now the verb читать, which conjugation does it belong to? The first conjugation. It's a first conjugation verb. Я читаю, ты читаешь, он читает. In the ending of the first conjugation verbs, we have the «е» vowel. Ты читаешь, он читает, мы читаем, вы читаете. Хорошо. Let's practice with another verb. Let's take the verb говорить. Говорить. Говорить по-русски. Я говорю по-русски. Ты говоришь по-русски. Он говорит по-русски. Мы говорим по-русски. Вы говорите по-русски. Они говорят по-русски. And which conjugation does this verb belong? It belongs to the second conjugation. Говорить is a second conjugation verb. And in the verbal endings, we have the vowel «и». Ты говоришь, он говорит, мы говорим, вы говорите. And then in the third person plural form, we have «я». Они говорят. Они говорят по-русски. So verbs conjugate in the present tense, and you should be very comfortable with the conjugation pattern for both the first conjugation verbs and the second conjugation verbs. Just remember about the difference. The difference is in the vowel. «е» appears in the endings for the first conjugation verbs, and then the second conjugation endings come with the vowel «и». Ты говоришь, он говорит. So verb conjugation is a very important thing for you to remember about. What is so important and so interesting about Russian nouns? Книга, журнал, письмо. Gender. Gender. You remember that each noun is either a masculine noun or a feminine noun or a neuter noun, and you should be able to identify the gender of any Russian noun. How do you do that? You look at the ending, and if a noun ends in a consonant, then it's a masculine noun. Стол, журнал, город, компьютер, телевизор, портфель. These are masculine nouns. They end in consonants. What about feminine nouns? What is the generic feminine ending in the Russian language? A. So all those nouns that end in A are feminine nouns. Книга, газета, квартира. And nouns ending in «я» are also feminine nouns. Кухня or деревня. These are feminine nouns too. The exception to this general rule is a group of masculine nouns that end in «a», such as папа, дедушка, and then male nicknames Ваня, Петя, etc., etc. Хорошо. Neuter nouns. What do we know about neuter nouns? They end in or е. Письмо is neuter. Упражнение is neuter. Radio, another example of a neuter noun. Or метро. Море. Море ends in е, and it also belongs to this group of neuter nouns. So gender is a very important concept when it comes to Russian nouns. We have to remember about gender, and you have to remember how to identify gender of Russian nouns. Now, nouns and adjectives. What should we remember about nouns and adjectives? Adjectives agree with nouns in number and gender. And then we talk about интересный журнал. But интересная книга. Интересное письмо. Интересные газеты и журналы. Новый дом. But новая квартира. So you have to remember about the agreement between adjectives and nouns. And in an adjective-noun relationship, the noun is the leader and the adjective is a follower. Adjectives agree with nouns in number and gender. So please remember these things. Хорошо. So this was a very brief review of those very important concepts of the Russian grammar that you always need to be aware of. Well, we started this brief overview with the verbs. And when it comes to the Russian verb, we have only been practicing with the present tense verbs. But Russian verbs have three tenses: present, past, and future. So far, we have only been practicing with the present tense, and you actually learned everything that you need to know about the present tense of the Russian verbs. Now, today, we will start looking at the past tense, and we will be, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to work with the Russian verbs in the past tense. Okay. So we are beginning a new unit, a new lesson in the textbook. Мы начинаем изучать урок номер 10. Урок номер 10. So now we are on lesson number 10 in the Russian for Everybody textbook. Мы начинаем изучать урок номер 10. So please take your textbooks, find урок номер 10. We are on page 176 and look at section 10.1, the first section in урок номер 10. And what does it say? The past tense. So this is what we are going to talk about now, the formation of the past tense. Well, what do we do with the past tense? Or how do we build a past tense form? What do we start with? And we start with an infinitive. So let's take a look at this. Infinitives. You should remember that Russian infinitives end in the and the soft sign. We can think of the and the soft sign as an infinitive ending. Работать, жить, говорить, смотреть. Russian verbs in their infinitive forms end in the and the soft sign. Работать, to work, жить, to live, говорить, to speak, to talk, смотреть, to look, to watch. Russian infinitives end in the and the soft sign. And when we need to build a past tense form, this is what we start with. We start with an infinitive form. And what do we do? What would be the first step? So this is what we are discussing now. The first step in the formation of the past tense. Is everybody ready? Let's take a look at this. This is the first thing that we do. Drop the and the soft sign from the infinitive. The verb stem remains. Let's look at the verb работать. If you get rid of the and the soft sign at the end, what remains is called the verb stem. And the verb stem of работать is работа. That's the yellow part of this verb. Работа. Now, жить is a very short verb, but still we have to get rid of the and the soft sign at the end. And the verb stem is жи. Just a two-letter verb stem. Жи. Говорить. Again, let's get rid of the infinitive ending. So the verb stem of говорить is говори. Смотреть, to look, to watch. Again, let's get rid of the and the soft sign and let's find the verb stem. The verb stem of смотреть is смотри. So the very first thing that we need to do when we are building a past tense form is we have to get rid of the and the soft sign. We have to drop the infinitive ending and we need to find the verb stem because this is what we will proceed from, the verb stem. Okay. Хорошо. So this is your first step. We got rid of the infinitive ending, we found the verb stem, and then we need to add the past tense suffix to the verb stem. Let's take a look at this. This is step 2. Add L to the verb stem. L is the past tense suffix. Работал, worked. Жил, говорил, смотрел. This L is the past tense suffix. Работал, worked. Жил, lived. Говорил, talked. Смотрел, watched. Works just like the ED in the English language. Работал, жил, говорил, смотрел. Хорошо. Хорошо. There's nothing too difficult about this. The first thing you do is you get rid of the infinitive ending, you find the verb stem, and then you put this little past tense suffix. That's easy. But then remember, Russian is a genderized language, and gender is very, very important. And even the verbs in the past tense have genderized form. That's our step 3. Let's take a look at this. After we added the L to the verb to make it a past tense form, we need to remember that verbs in the past tense have masculine, feminine, and plural forms. Работал is masculine, and you remember that a consonant, any kind of consonant, is a generic masculine ending in the Russian language. Работала is a feminine form. Now we are adding a after L. Работала. Работало is neuter. O is our neuter ending. Работали with the E ending after L is plural. Работал, he worked. Работала, she worked. Now, работало, you will be using this past tense form with a neuter noun. Работали, they worked. Работал, работала, работало, работали. Verbs in the past tense have masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural forms. Masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural forms. Oh, хорошо, хорошо. So one more time. Here's an easy 3-step procedure that you have to remember about. The first thing you do is you chop off the and the soft sign from an infinitive, and you have the verb stem. Then you add L to the verb stem to make it past tense. And then you have to think of whether you need a masculine, feminine, neuter, or plural form. And for the feminine form, you add a, работала. For the neuter form, you add o, работало. For the plural form, you add и, работали. Хорошо. And now let's practice. Let's practice. So please pick up your pens and pencils. Возьмите ручки или карандаши. And let's take a look at this verb. Читать. Читать. Now let's put it in the past tense. And we shall start with он, he read. Он читал. And now I'm adding L. Remember, the first thing we have to do is we get rid of the and the soft sign. Чита is the verb stem. And then we added L for the past tense. Он читал. But let's make it feminine now. Она чита. That's your verb stem. L for the past tense. And now I need the feminine ending. Читала. Она читала. She read. How about the plural form? Они. And we are doing the same thing. Чита is the verb stem. Then we are adding L for the past tense and И for the plural form. Они читали. Они читали. Let's make up a few sentences with читал, читала, and читали. We can say Иван Иванович читал газету. Anna Petrovna was reading a book. Anna Petrovna читала книгу. Let's say Maxim and Nina were reading magazines. Максим и Нина читали журналы. Максим и Нина читали журналы. Хорошо, let's take a look at another verb. Let's practice with делать. Делать. And again we shall begin with the masculine form. Okay, what's the verb stem here? Дело. So он делал. Он делал. Она делала. And let's work on this. Они дела. Again, I need L for the past tense, and I need to add the plural ending. И. Они делали. Они делали. Хорошо. Well, let's say Maxim was doing his homework. Maxim делал уроки. Now let's say the same thing about Nina. Нина делала уроки. They were doing homework. Они делали уроки. Они делали уроки. Хорошо. And I would like for you to practice with one more verb. Let's take a look at this. Слушать. Слушать. Итак, он слушал. Он слушал. Так, она слушала. Here we have the verb stem, L for the past tense, A to make it feminine. And give me the plural form. Они слушали. Again, L for the past tense, E to make it plural. Они слушали. Он слушал. Она слушала. Они слушали. Хорошо. So, Максим слушал музыку. Say the same thing about Nina. Нина слушала музыку. Они, now we're making a statement about both of them. Они слушали музыку. Хорошо, хорошо. Well, when we use the past tense, we talk about the events or things that happened sometime in the past. Very often we talk about things that happened yesterday. So let's take a look at this word. Вчера. Вчера. This is the Russian word for yesterday. Вчера. Вчера. Yesterday. And let's look at this example. Let's see what happened yesterday evening in Ivan Ivanovич's household. Вчера вечером Максим и Нина делали уроки. Иван Иванович читал, а Анна Петровна слушала музыку. Анна Петровна слушала музыку. And notice the verb forms. Максим и Нина делали уроки, plural. Иван Иванович читал, that's a masculine verb. And Анна Петровна слушала музыку. Хорошо, хорошо. But the interesting question is, what do we do when we have я or ты as the subject of the sentence? And then the gender of the verb agrees with the gender of the person. The gender of the verb agrees with the gender of the person. Let's take a look at this very short dialogue. Максим, что ты вчера делал? We are talking to Maxim, and the gender of the verb делал agrees with his gender. He is a boy, masculine. Что ты вчера делал? And Maxim says, я играл в футбол, а потом смотрел телевизор. Maxim is talking about himself, and he uses masculine forms. They agree with his own gender. Я играл в футбол, а потом смотрел телевизор. So when we have я or ты as the subject of the sentence, the gender of the verb agrees with the person's gender. Let's take a look at another dialogue. This time we are talking to Nina, and Nina is a girl. Nina, что ты вчера делала? Я слушала музыку, а потом смотрела телевизор. Now all the verbs in this dialogue are feminine verbs because Nina is a girl, right? When we have я or ты as the subject of the sentence, the gender of the past tense verb agrees with the gender of that person. So you have to be very careful here. Just remember that verbs in the past tense have masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural forms. And gender, as you know, is a very, very important thing in the Russian language. So, pull out your additional exercises sheets, and right after this lesson is over, start working on that, and you will receive additional practice with formation of the past tense. Then, what I need you to do at home is very carefully review notes taken during today's class. Review the procedure for the formation of the past tense and complete this translation exercise. I want you to translate these 4 sentences from English into Russian. Notice that in the translation exercise, you will have to use verbs of different genders. Anton played, Natasha watched, we listened, and in number 4, Oleg, what did you do yesterday? Again, you will have to make a choice on the gender of the verb. Okay. Just review everything that we learned during today's lesson, and you are in a very good shape to complete this exercise and not make a single mistake in it. Что ж, хорошо, хорошо. Сегодня мы много работали. Today we did a lot during this lesson. We worked a lot. We accomplished a lot. Мы много работали. Мы говорили по-русски. Мы читали по-русски. Мы писали по-русски. Так, большое спасибо и до свидания.